boyfriend's mother mocked me for being a worthless dropout, but I was the only one who could save her husband's life. I dropped out of high school at 16 to become my mom's full-time caregiver after her massive stroke left her paralyzed and unable to speak. 3 years later, I was dating Chris and working at Target to pay for mom's medications when he finally convinced me to meet his wealthy family for dinner, though my stomach churned knowing exactly how people like them would see me once they heard the word dropout. His mother Helen opened the door wearing pearls and a frozen smile that faltered the second she saw my department store dress. "You must be Sarah," she said, stepping aside without offering a hug while his father Robert assessed me from the living room like I was interviewing for a position I'd already failed to get. "So tell us about yourself," Helen said once we sat down to dinner, though her tone suggested she'd already made up her mind. "Chris mentioned you work at Target?" I nodded and explained I was a shift supervisor, but Robert cut me off mid-sentence. "And you're planning to go back to school, I assume? Community college, perhaps?" "Actually, I'm not sure yet about college because first I would need a GED and things are complicated with my mom's care," I started to explain, but Helen's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "Complicated? At your age? What could possibly be complicated about bettering yourself?" She turned to Chris with this pitying look. "Sweetheart, you know we support whoever you date, but shouldn't you be with someone who shares your ambition?" Chris tried to defend me, but his younger sister Chloe jumped in, home from Yale for the weekend. "Wait, you didn't even finish high school? Like you actually dropped out?" She said it like I'd admitted to kicking puppies. "I had to leave during junior year," I said quietly, but Robert was already shaking his head. "Had to? Nobody has to abandon their education. That's a choice, young lady, and choices have consequences." He gestured around their dining room. "This is what education and hard work build. What exactly are you building?" Helen touched her pearls like prayer beads. "I suppose some people just aren't meant for academic success. Someone has to stock the shelves." "Mom, please," Chris begged, but Chloe was already pulling out her phone. "Look, I found her Instagram. She posts these weird motivational quotes about strength and perseverance." Chloe read one aloud mockingly. "She literally posts about surviving each day like she's been through war or something. It's so cringe." Robert studied me over his wine glass. "You know what bothers me most? The entitlement. Your generation thinks you deserve participation trophies for basic existence. Dropping out isn't perseverance, it's giving up." "She probably got pregnant or something," Chloe whispered to her mom, but loud enough for me to hear. "That's usually why girls drop out, right?" Helen pretended to be scandalized, but her eyes lit up with interest. "Oh, Chloe, don't be crude." Though statistically speaking, she trailed off with this knowing look. I wanted to defend myself, but Chris already looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole and die, and I didn't want to make this worse for him. "I volunteer with dropout prevention programs," Robert announced, "and every single dropout I've met has the same story. Bad decisions, no discipline, always someone else's fault. Dating up, apparently," Chloe muttered, and Helen actually laughed. Chris slammed his water glass down, but his dad wasn't finished. "You want to know what I tell the kids in my program? I tell them about people like you. How you'll spend your whole life serving people like us, watching through the window at what you could have had if you just stayed in school. What must your parents think? Their daughter throwing away her future to fold clothes for minimum wage? What do they think about you latching onto my son? See it as your meal ticket?" I opened my mouth to mention my mom, but Helen cut me off. "The saddest part is you've dragged Chris down to your level. He used to date a lovely pre-med student. Now he's bringing home someone who probably can't even help his future children with homework." Robert stood up suddenly, his face flushed. "You know what? I don't want to hear excuses. The bottom line is that there is no good reason to drop out and no one who's smarter because they didn't go to school. You're everything wrong with this generation." Then he grabbed his wine glass, but his hand trembled strangely, and the glass slipped, shattering on the floor. "Damn it," he slurred, but the word came out garbled. Chloe laughed and said, "Dad's drunk already." But I was already standing because I'd seen that facial droop 100 times in my nightmares, watched that same right side weakness steal my mother's independence, and I knew we had exactly 180 minutes before the damage became permanent. "Call 911 immediately," I commanded, rushing to Robert. "He's having an ischemic stroke. Tell them we need TPA within the window." Helen scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. He's just had too much wine." I grabbed Robert's face gently, performing the FAST assessment I'd done countless times. "Smile for me, Robert." Only the right side of his mouth moved. "Raise both arms." His left arm stayed limp. "What's your name?" Unintelligible sounds. The color drained from Helen's face as she watched the high school dropout she'd mocked for an hour demonstrate more medical knowledge than anyone in her educated family possessed. And I saw the exact moment she realized her husband's life depended entirely on the girl she'd just called worthless. Full story on the channel below.